Hey guys, my name's Javi, and on the 1st of November I went to and passed the Potential Royal Marines course, or the PRMC. And I'm no expert on the matter, but I decided to write down a list of things that I thought would help you guys out if you're preparing for or coming up to your Potential Royal Marines course. Okay, point number one, shoes. I'd recommend taking 2 different sets of shoes because during the bleep test, I found that the floor, well, it was extremely dusty. The shoes that I usually run with are these ones, these Nikes, which they're amazing, they're incredible. They're like running in socks, just with cushions underneath. They're absolutely amazing. I do half marathons in them, they're wonderful. But I found that when it came down to the bleep test, the thin layer of dust is like running on sand. When you actually got to the line, I had to slow down in order to not slip and fall on the floor. So I'd recommend taking 2 different pairs of shoes. One that you're really comfortable with, that you've broken in, that are really nice running shoes that you're used to, that you take out on training. And the second pair to be a bit more grippy, maybe with like rubber studs underneath. This is an example of a set of trainers that I would recommend taking. As you can see, they've sort of got rubber studs on the bottom. That would give you a lot more grip when coming up to the line and running back and forth, because I only actually scored 11.3 on the test, whereas on all the times that I was practicing, I was getting 12.5, getting on 13 points. So that will really help you out on the bleep test. Point number 2, still on the bleep test, practice lots. I practiced like once a week, probably maybe twice a week on the bleep test, because I thought that I'm fast at running, I can easily do the BFT. There'll be no problems with the bleep test. However, when it actually came down to it, because the floor is dodgy and because you're under a lot of pressure and everything, it really have helped me if I'd done, I don't know, like 2, 3, maybe even 4 times practicing it every week, just to get many more points, because I only really, 11.3, that's not really adding to my final score. So practice the bleep test lots and your body will be used to it and you'll do great. Okay, number 3, still on the gym tests. When you're about to do the pull-ups, I found that with our group, we ended up doing them last. So that was after sit-ups, press-ups, everything else, the bleep test, so my hands were really sweaty. So use the dust on the floor to your advantage, just scrape your hands on the floor, it'll just dry out your hands so that when you jump up to grab onto the beam, you won't be slipping off or feeling like you're going to slip off and having to use extra arm strength basically to try and hold on. Number 4, the swimming test. Now, lots of people, surprisingly, failed on the swimming test. The ones that were almost the most confident and the most physically ready, physically prepared, ended up failing on the swimming test. So it's a really good idea to practice beforehand, because you've probably seen it in the YouTube videos. You have to jump off the diving boards, swim a length, walk across the back of the pool, swim back a length, and then dive down 3 meters. Now 3 meters doesn't sound like a lot, but after you've been swimming for a little while, even though it's not particularly fast, it's not a race or a test or anything, but after you've been swimming for a while, you do get out of breath. And when the Sergeant Major tells you to dive down, if you're not prepared for that and you haven't done a 3-meter dive under the water before, while having done exercise beforehand, it can be a shock to the system. And 5 or 6 people actually got caught out and didn't manage to get the brick after multiple attempts. So practice diving the 3 meters and you'll be able to do it great. Now to the endurance course. When we were doing the river crossing, where you have to all line up against a rope in sort of like a waist-deep river. 1, it's freezing cold. I mean, you should be prepared for that. You should know it's going to be freezing cold. But 2, make sure you put the top of your head entirely under the water. We ended up having to do it 3 times. And after you've done an exercise, having to do that over and over and over again in freezing cold water while being out of breath, can barely breathe, you're suffocating under there, it's horrible. So, when you're doing the river crossing, make sure you pull your head entirely. The top of your head needs to be completely under the water, because if you don't do that correctly, they're going to tell you to do it again and again and again. And after you're already doing lots of strenuous exercise and you're already out of breath, having to hold your breath for 5 seconds underwater, it's It doesn't sound scary, but it is. In the situation, it is actually quite scary. Okay, the next one, it pays to be a winner. This was during the endurance course. They did this thing called it pays to be a winner, where basically they pay you off and you go up against one other guy and you have to do something, and if you succeed, you get a little break. If you don't succeed, you have to go back and do the entire exercise again. So for example, hill sprints. So we just come from sheep dip, and we had to go up and do hill sprints. So they paid us off, and the first person that made it to the top of the hill got to stand there and have a rest, whereas the person that failed had to go to the back of the queue and keep on doing it again and again and again until you succeed. But the key to this is to always give 100%. Some of the guys ended up thinking, well, I'm not going to make it first time, this guy's much fitter than me, I'm just going to sort of jog it up, come back down to the bottom, jog it up, come down to the bottom until I find somebody that I know I'm going to beat, then I'll sprint it up. I can promise you, don't do that, because they will pick up on it. They know, they can tell, they're looking at you 100% of the time. They can tell when you are slacking, and you will be chucked off the course almost instantly. 3 guys, I think, on our course got chucked off because they were slacking. So always give 100%, and you might surprise yourself. You probably are fitter than the guy next to you. Just trust me. Okay, number 7, boots. The boots you get given to use actually during the PRMC are terrible. They are absolutely atrocious. So what I'd recommend doing is taking tape, medical tape, bandages, something that you can tie around sort of the outside of your big toe and the back of your heel, just to give you a bit of protection, because they are going to rub and they're going to really sting. And unless you have special socks that are going to, I don't know, protect your feet from incoming hell, then I'd recommend taking the tape. Okay, number 8. This is more of a warning rather than a point. So your knees are going to get absolutely screwed. There are lots of times when you're going to be crawling through tunnels, and those tunnels are going to be extremely small. So you can't even get on your hands and knees. Some of them are going to be extremely claustrophobic, crawling sort of like on your chest, having to like shove yourself through. So prepare yourself for a lot of pain in your knees. Okay, point number 9. Down at bottom fields, there's going to be a time when you're going to pair off and you're going to do lots of exercises pulling each other up a hill. For that exercise, there's one where one person's on their hands and feet, leaning over, crawling up, while the other person is underneath, grabbing onto the belt and being dragged along underneath between the legs of the person. And I'd recommend, before you do those hill exercises, you'll know when they're coming, tuck in your shirt, because the belts you get given are really thin, and if you've got a guy hanging on with his entire body weight, plus the force of being dragged along as well, your sides are going to be absolutely destroyed. When we got into the showers afterwards, every single one of us, our sides were bleeding from where the belt had been digging in, and it was painful. So tuck your shirt in and it'll help that problem. Okay, point number 10, the knowledge test. Now, some of the guys didn't even know there was going to be a knowledge test on the history of the Royal Marines, but there is going to be a knowledge test, and it's going to be, at least when we did it, it was in a questionnaire sort of format. So you get put into a classroom, sit down at a desk, and you're writing out the answers. It says, what do you know? Name the 10 Victorian Cross winners from the Royal Marines, the previous winners. And you have to list down and write as much information as you possibly can. You're sort of given like an A4 sort of sized sheet. So there's sort of 6, 7, 8 questions, long questions that you have to answer in lots of detail. And then there's a couple of diagrams of the Marines badge and some ranks, etc., etc. So make sure you know your stuff. Okay, 11. Insecurities. Now, this sounds like a strange topic, but you're going to be showering about 15 times a day. Every single time you change clothes, from your suits to your PT gear, from your PT gear to your suits, which happens a lot during the day, you'll be showering. You have to shower between every single time you change clothes. just to stay clean and to stay hygienic. And so you're going to be in the shower a lot of the time. So a couple of the guys there weren't very secure with their bodies. They didn't like getting naked because there are 3 showers shared between, we had 34 to 38 people on our course, and some of the guys weren't used to being butt naked, surrounded by a bunch of dudes, jumping in the shower, having to share the showers sometimes. But you're going to be showering so many times during the weekend that just forget about it. Just get in the shower, jump in, get changed, done, sorted. Okay, another point on the showers, you have less than 5 minutes to change from your suit hung up inside your lockers, running into the shower, having a complete shower, head to toe, hair, face, body, everything, back out, dried off, back in your PT gear. You have to do that in about 5 minutes. And with 3 showers between 30 plus guys, you have to be fast. So I'd recommend, instead of taking shampoo and body wash, try and find a 2-in-1, just a cheap one from Asda, Tesco, something like that. Just something you can just squirt all over yourself, wash yourself really quickly, thoroughly, because if you don't do it thoroughly, you'll get absolutely plastered. Do it thoroughly and do it quickly, and taking just one simple bottle of 2-in-1, just putting it all over yourself, washing yourself, cleaning yourself, it's an absolute saviour. While you're on the weekend, you're going to be running around at 100 miles an hour all the time, and you barely have any time to stop and breathe and think about anything. But if you do get some time, take a breather and stretch, because on the last day, some of us are finding it really hard to get out of our bunks because our muscles were absolutely killing us, our joints, you could barely move, it was an absolute agony. But if you have a breather, which we had 1, maybe 2 times where we had sort of 10 minutes there, here and there, if you stretch your muscles, which one of the guys did, and he was absolutely fine the next day. So if you have spare time, take a breather, stretch your muscles, and it will really, really help the next day, the following day. Okay, another thing, clean up after yourself, because you're going to be cleaning a lot of the time while you're there, but anything to help make cleaning up shorter, because the shorter cleaning up is, the more time you have to stretch, relax, think about stuff, talk to your friends that you've made, but it will make your life a hell of a lot easier if you clean up after yourself. Keep everything in your locker extremely tidy, and just have everything ready to go. PT gear set out on a bed in the morning, so that after you get back from Scran, which if you don't know is foods, after you've been to Scran, you can literally run back in, jump in the shower, come out the shower, dry yourself off, grab your PT gear, and you're good to go. Okay, the penultimate point, don't give up. Now this sounds extremely straightforward, but when you are a lot slower than the other guys, and you're still giving 100%, you're so tired, you're cold, you're wet, you're in absolute agony, every single muscle in your body is hurting. And when you're seeing other guys still being able to sprint up hills easily and do everything much better than you do, it's tempting to quit. But if you're giving 100% and they can see that you're giving 100%, you won't be kicked off the course, because you're showing the dedication that, in spite of everyone else doing better than you are, you still have the determination to push through it and keep going. My final point is, good luck. Train hard, enjoy yourself. If you have any questions or anything, stick them down in the comments, I'll be happy to answer them. But thanks for watching, I hope this video helped you out, and good luck.